And welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, and then just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And welcome to day 2 of my Space Horror Festival. And we are going to be talking about something I was very, very excited to get. I remember loving this movie when I was a kid. Loving this kid when I was a movie. I remember loving this movie when I was a kid. And that is Saturn III. This is the Scream Factory remaster of Saturn III. Now, Saturn III was released in 1980, and it stars Farrah Fawcett, Kirk Douglas, and Harvey Keitel. It was directed by Stanley Donen and written by Martin Amis and John Barry. And yeah. And like I said, it stars Farrah Fawcett, or did I say it? It stars Farrah Fawcett and Kirk Douglas and Harvey Keitel. That's 3 big names right there. Now, this is so cool. I had so much fun rewatching this. This, of course, is not a first-time watch. This movie opens and we see this big transport ship enter the Saturn satellite system, and they are there to deliver. I love the way this movie is filmed too. It's really cool. It reminded me a lot of some of the stuff really reminded me of 2001, A Space Odyssey. Just the grandeur of the inside scenes was kind of cool. But it arrives, it's there to deliver a Dr. Benson. Now, Dr. Benson is there to check on and assist Alex and Adam. Adam is played by Kirk Douglas, and Alex is Farrah Fawcett. So, they are an experimental food research facility on one of the moons of Saturn. So, I was trying to think if they said which one, but I don't really remember whether they said which one. But so on the ship, we see the Dr. Benson, getting ready, and in a locker room, and then we see someone come in, and he called them Vincent, and he's like, "Is that you? So sorry that you failed the test, and I'm the one to go instead of you," and stuff like that. But then he notices that this he's already like wearing a spacesuit and all, and he walks over and he opens the emergency doors, and the doctor's trying to get his suit on. He does manage to get his suit on, but he can't grab a hold of anything fast enough. And it is a very gross scene. From what I understand, this scene was put back in it. Because when he gets sucked out the airlock, there's these big wire things across it. And it like cuts him into chunks, like big pieces. He was being sucked out so fast. And I admit that was a pretty gory scene. So this imposter goes out there and gets on the captain's ship and goes down, and we meet Kirk Douglas and Farrah Fawcett. So they introduce himself, and Harvey Keitel did so well because, Harvey Keitel almost spoke like a robot, and he was just so weird. And one of the most interesting things about this movie is these little hints that you get about the Earth, but they don't really go into much detail, and you're left. I'm really curious as to what the Earth was like, but he meets them. They introduce them. Of course, everybody thinks that this is Dr. Benson, when we know, the audience knows, that this is an imposter. So he meets them, and they think that he's very weird, and you will think that he's very weird too. this is a very strange character. Vincent is a very, very strange. Well, Benson, we call him Benson. He is a very, very, very strange character. And that's what I meant about it makes you wonder what the Earth was like. Because, like, after they meet him, one of the things that happens is they have a dog named Sally, and she gets, like, stuck in one of the rooms or something, and Farrah Fawcett has to come out. And, you know, the doctor brought this big, long cylinder with him, about that big around and about that long, you know. And they were curious about it, but he would never tell them what it was. So she goes out and gets the dog, and she sees the cylinder, and she walks up to it, and she kind of like is being a little bit nosy when Benson comes up and scares her, you know, and is like, I told you not to touch that. So they have this conversation, and, you know, she's like, I just came to get the dog, you know, Sally is, you know, and he's like, oh, it's got a name? And she says, of course it's got a name. It's a dog. You've never seen a dog before? You know, and he grabbed it and he like held it up and he looked at it and all, and he said, no, just for food. And she like grabs the dog from him and says, give me that dog. You know, and I'm like, what? And it's because you're kind of getting these hints and all that, because he had said so, Dr. Benson had said so, the whole reason that they're there is because they need to speed up these experiments and this stuff because the Earth is hungry. So obviously there's overpopulation or something going on, and they are in desperate need of food. So that was a really weird scene. And then he also is like, you have a very beautiful body. Do you mind if I use it? And she's like, no, I'm with Adam. And he's like, well, how rude of you. You know, that's considered very rude on Earth. We use each other's bodies for pleasure. I was just asking to use your body. And I'm like going, what the fuck is Earth like? You know what I'm saying? I don't know about that now. Like you're standing in the 7-Eleven and someone comes in and is just like, oh man, you look really good. Can I use your body for a little bit? No, how rude. It's like, what are they doing? They like have sex, like shaking hands or something? So that's like some really weird stuff. So I like the little weird bits in this movie that kind of make you go, what the fuck is going on at Earth? You know what I'm saying? But so he finally ends up telling them what it is that he's brought, and that is that he's brought a fancy new robot, the first one in the Demigod series, named Hector. And this thing in the cylinder is human brain tissue. So it's like a big giant brain that has been grown, and it fits in the robot's torso. And instead of like a head, the robot has this, it looks like an arm, and on the end of the arm there's a big square and two eyes. It's actually a very interesting looking robot. So he had also given her a pill that he called a Blue Dreamer, and he was like, you know, take one of these, you know, and you can enjoy it. So like Earth like passes out these pills, I guess, to keep everybody satiated. So she takes it back and tells Adam about it, and he's like, yeah, I've taken them a long time ago. Because you see, she has never been to Earth. So I guess she was born, she's a space baby. So she was born on colonies and stuff. She's never been to Earth. So they continue to get more and more weird with him, or he continues to act more and more weird. He does put Hector together. Hector ends up, you know, he comes and introduces them to Hector, the robot, and it's an alright first meeting, but he does, like, need some fine-tuning. So he's doing that, and then you get to see there's almost like this relationship between Harvey Keitel's character, Dr. Benson, and the robot. And we also learn that he has been doing, or he's doing a direct brain transfer between him and this robot. So this brain that was created for this robot is blank. So he's doing it. He's got an actual neural input connector or output connector in the back of his brain. Input and output connector. Looks like what you would hook your guitar up to a speaker, you know. So he's actually doing brain transfer, you know, and you end up kind of thinking he's a psychotic murderer. I wonder what kind of a good idea it might be for a psychotic murderer to be putting his brain waves into a robot. Can't turn out well, and it doesn't turn out well. So all of this is like really cool and all, and he ends up, I think one of the pivotal scenes is when he's like alone with Hector, and he wants Hector to talk because he knows Hector can talk, but Hector refuses to talk. He'll only text back to him. And they end up with this like weird argument between them, you know, and it's like, I know you can talk, why won't you talk to me? And, you know, Hector, you know, texts back on the screen and it's like, you know, because you're a failure. And he's like, how dare you call me a failure? You know, what's wrong with me? What is the problem? And it's like, you're a murderer. You know, and he ends up like, erase that right now and stuff. So they're having this back and forth that's like really interesting. And he ends up even like, I guess what you would call calling someone a name. And he ends up like saying something. He didn't say bucket of bolts, but you know what I'm saying. It's like you're just a machine or something like that. And Hector's answer was just to call him killer. You know, like you're calling me whatever, I'm calling you a killer. So you really get a feel that even though this is a robot, it really does have a human brain. And it turns out that because of the neural link, it's just as crazy as Dr. Vincent, aka Dr. Benson. So it's just as crazy as him, but it don't like him. You know, Hector doesn't like him, which kind of makes you go, you know, psychologically, that's kind of an interesting take, because if it's his brainwaves that were put into this robot, sort of birthed from him, from his own mind, then doesn't that mean you hate yourself, you know? I mean, your brainwaves into the robot and the robot hates you. So you're kind of like hating yourself. So I think that's a little interesting psychological twist in there that maybe a lot of people don't notice, you know? So after that, we can see that Hector is definitely creepy. And not only that, but Hector has the same fascination with Alex that Dr. Benson does. So you've got a robot who is like got the hots for Farrah Fawcett. So the first thing that we know that's a real big problem is that we see Hector stalking and then murdering Sally, the dog. And you hear it scream, and Farrah Fawcett comes running, and she finds it in the arboretum. She finds it, and they show it, and the dog is like cut in half, and its head is cut off, and it's laid over there. It's like really gory, and I'm like, what the fuck, you know? So it was like that's. You think this is a cheesy little sci-fi movie. And so you don't expect to see some of this gory blood and stuff like that doctor on the ship getting cut into chunks and this dog cut all to pieces and stuff. It was pretty gross. So now we know that Hector is very dangerous. And he then ends up attacking Alex. And Benson runs in and sees him holding her up by the arms. And he refuses to put her down, because, like, what does he give a fuck what the Benson says? He doesn't even like him. But so Benson tells her he'll listen to you. He likes you. So she's like, please put me down. And it puts her down. And don't let that think, though, that it means anything. She doesn't really have any power over it. I guess it was just nice at the moment. And Adam comes running in, and then things really hit the fan, because the Hector goes after Dr. Benson and, like, makes one of the other robots, like, because they do have like 3 or 4 maintenance robots. Nothing like this sentient thing, though. So it gets him down, and Adam and Alex run, and he almost is like, fuck him, I'm going to leave him in there to get killed. But he can't do it, because he is a nice man. So he goes back in, and he helps him get loose, and they end up locking Hector in that room. Now, Hector is trying to tear through the door. They go and watch from command and control, trying to figure out what to do. They see that he's running down. I'm so far into my notes, it ain't even worth it. I couldn't even find out where I was in the story. So now I'm just having to do it from brain. Thank God I watched these just a couple hours ago, all 4 of them in a row. But so they come up with this idea that when he goes to recharge himself, they'll overload him, right? So as soon as he sticks the thing in, Adam jerks up the power, and it fries the robot. So they go down there and think that it's out, but it's not. It starts getting up, and there's a bunch more fighting, and they end up like getting it knocked down to the point where he can pull the brain out, detach the brain and pull it out. And then he is then told by Adam to disassemble that damn thing, which he does. Because Hector just tried to kill him too, right? So he does disassemble it. What they don't know is it's probably, in its head thing, it's probably got like a little backup system or something like that. But so while they're asleep, Hector, who has tapped into the comms, he uses the maintenance robots to put himself back together. The maintenance robots come in, put the stuff back together, and all of that, and put the brain back in it. And so Hector's back, Now, because Adam had threatened that he was going to report Dr. Benson for this big giant fuck up, Dr. Benson gets ready to leave, gets all dressed, gets the ship ready, his little captain ship, and he's going to go back. Now, you might be wondering, how come nobody's called for help or anything? Well, when Benson arrived, Saturn was in eclipse, so there was no way for them for 22 days. There was no way. So even up till now, there's absolutely no way for them to contact anyone off planet. So Dr. Benson comes in to the bedroom and tells them that he's leaving, but that he's taken Alex with him. Now, that's when Kirk Douglas, buck-ass naked, gets up, and they start fighting, and he beats the shit out of Dr. Benson naked. I'm like, Kirk Douglas still got it and didn't mind showing it in 1980. It was like that Eastern Promises fight, where Vigo fights completely naked. But I didn't remember that from childhood. I didn't remember that. But yeah, so there is a little nudity in this movie. There's nudity from Kirk Douglas, and I didn't know that Farrah Fawcett had done nudity. But they do show her naked in this movie, if for y'all who care about that. I didn't know they showed boob shots of Farrah Fawcett in this movie. And I didn't know they showed butt shots of Kirk Douglas either. So well, that might be something that they put back in it, that Scream put back cut out scenes or something. I thought this was like PG when I was a kid or something. I probably saw a cut up version. Yeah, that's probably it. That's why I didn't remember those scenes, or I know those scenes were in there. But, because I literally have not seen that movie since I was like 10. And it was so much fun to see it again. I forgot how good it was, because it was fucking amazing. So, where was I? He put himself back together. And Kirk Douglas beat the shit out of Dr. Benson. And then Dr. Benson she stopped him because he was strangling him to death. And Alex ended up stopping him, and he got chilled out for a minute. Unfortunately, that gave Dr. Benson time to bust him in the back of the head and KO him for a second. He grabbed Alex, he ran out to the hall, and surprise, to his big surprise, Hector was waiting out there in the hall for him, grabbed him, picked him up, and cut his hand off right above the wrist. So that was all blood spurting and gory, and hand fell on the floor, and it freaked Alex out. And he drugged like Dr. Benson off, and there's like spurts of blood coming out of his arm. I was like, this movie is a little bit more bloody, gory, and stuff than I remembered it as a kid. Like I said, I probably saw a cut up version. I mean, it's not like I went to the theater and saw it. I probably saw it on TV when I was a kid. But, so, Adam and her are like, okay, well, this is what we can do. We got to get into his ship and take off. So they start trying to get to the captain's ship. And Hector is after them. So we got a lot of it really reminded me of like when the Queen Mother was after Sigourney Weaver in Aliens, when they were, when she was going through the water, with the grates above them. That's what they were having to do to try to escape Hector. They did manage to get to the ship, and they got their suits on, and they were going into the ship when Hector, who is at command and control, right, he launched the ship, but he didn't wait for them to get in it, which gave Adam, because when they came back out, and they're like, well, that's the end of that plan. He did mention to Alex, was like, well, we know now that Hector does not want us dead, because he could have killed us right there. So he doesn't want us dead, but then that scares me even more, because what does he want us for? Right. Well, fight. They end up knocked out. Hector wins for now. And Kirk Douglas wakes up, and he's got one of those input-output things has been put into the back of his skull. Alex does not have one, though. And he is woken up by this voice. And it is Dr. Benson, right? But we all thought he was dead, yeah? But Dr. Benson is like, no, I'm alive, and I need y'all to come to me. So they go where he tells them to go. And when they get there, they find that Hector has like cut up Dr. Benson and like integrated parts of his body into his robot body. So it's like there's like half of Dr. Benson's face. It was fucked up looking. That was gross, actually, because he had cut him up and like integrated his body parts into the robot, just for appearance's sake, obviously, because you have to remember he's like been messing with them while they were unconscious, so he knows how to speak just like Alex, he knows how to speak just like Adam, and he has Dr. Benson's entire brain downloaded into him. So he's just as fucking crazy as Benson was. So he's basically going to make them serve him. And they are going to get this experiments done. And they are his slave labor. Well, since Saturn has now come out of eclipse, you have a survey vessel that is coming, that comes every 6 months to check on things. So Adam and Alex, they really try to get in contact with it, but of course they can't through Hector's blocks. And Hector instead contacts them, and using Adam's voice, tells them that everything's fine, the doctor's working out well, the new robot's working out well, everything's fine. Do you want to speak to Alex? And so he does Alex's voice and talks to them, and they basically leave and won't be back for another 6 months. So I think that's when Kirk Douglas was like, Adam was just like, this whatever this thing is going to do to us, we're not going to do it. So he goes and basically he straps himself with explosives. Because, Hector / Benson, who used to be really Vincent, is calling him, and saying, get here right now, you're late. So Alex arrives, and he fucks with her brain just a little bit, like fucking with her head psychologically. And then Adam comes in, and that's when Adam tells her to stay away from them. And he walks up because he wants to plug in to Adam, right, with that input thing. So Adam walks up there and lets him do it. Now, they had set up a trap earlier that Hector had seen through, kind of, and when they were trying to escape from him that time. And that was that there's this big pool of algae and stuff on the floor that's covered up by tile. So they start fighting. When he gets up there and tries to plug that in, they start fighting, and he pushes Alex away, and then he grabs Hector, and Hector grabs him, and they start fighting, but he manages to kick and hit off of the wall, and both of them fell into that algae, and Kirk Douglas sacrificed himself for Alex and blew himself and Hector up in that pool of algae, meaning that it didn't hurt her. So she had to witness all of this. Then we see the outro of the movie, which is that we see a big spaceship from this corporation is arriving in Earth orbit, and we see Alex come walking up to the window. Remember, she's never seen Earth. So she comes walking up to the window, and a waitress came up to her and had this, the thing that waitresses carry, the tray. And on it was a big cup, see-through glass cup of various pills, capsules, like those Blue Dreamers, and a couple glasses of water. And she looked at those pills and looked at the waitress and was like, no, thank you. And she went on. And you hear the narrator, of the spaceship, like a cruise ship kind of thing. You hear him talking about, welcome to Earth and welcome to the beautiful world. And we'll be taking off to land in a moment. And then you see the ship detach from the mothership and start going down, and the movie ends. And I was very, very thrilled. I mean, like I said, I haven't seen this movie since I was a kid, and I was more than thrilled with my memory of it. Was nothing compared to getting to see it again. So I'm really glad that I've got this. And that was a really good watch. It really keeps you, you know, and I have to give, let me tell you, if for nothing else, I mean, the special effects are so cute for 1980, you know. It's so cute in that it does kind of look a little like some of the special effects from 2001, you know, it's kind of like that. It's definitely all practical. There's no CGI in it, which they could have done. Like for a remaster, they could have done like the Star Trek original series where they replaced some of the old special effects with new CGI that looks beautiful, because I prefer the remastered Star Trek original series. So, but they didn't, and it looks really cool. I really, it's very nostalgic to see the special effects in this movie. The models, you know what I'm saying? Like the models. It really looks like Star Wars from 1977, you know. And so that's pretty cool. But I have to give kudos now. Fucking Kirk Douglas is amazing in this movie. This is not what you expect in Kirk Douglas's catalog. You know, westerns and action and crime drama and stuff is what you expect from Kirk Douglas. Seeing him in a very well done sci-fi horror movie is shocking. And of course, Farrah Fawcett is absolutely beautiful. That fucking hair. That fucking hair of Farrah Fawcett is, you know, because she's still got that Logan's Run. She's still got the Farrah Fawcett hair from 77, from that poster, and from Logan's Run, which was 76. So it's toned down a little bit. It's more feathered, but it's still cool. Like y'all want to talk about Farrah Fawcett's hair. And Harvey Keitel, it's Harvey Keitel, for God's sakes. Harvey Keitel can just do magic with roles. He is, the way he turns whatever role he's in into something this weird is really cool. So he was absolutely phenomenal in this movie. And to see Kirk Douglas when he was still young and in shape, and to see Farrah Fawcett in her absolute prime, to see Harvey Keitel all young and fresh-faced and still in his prime, it's really a total nostalgia trip to see these three wonderful actors. Because Farrah Fawcett's always been very underrated to me. You know, everybody just thinks of her as the poster and Charlie's Angels. And I'm like, you know, if you don't think Farrah Fawcett can act, you're crazy. Because if you have ever seen Extremities and The Burning Bed, Farrah Fawcett is a phenomenal actress. And she is like, there's nothing cheesy about her in this movie. There's nothing really cheesy about this movie except for you might thinking, well, you can definitely tell those dated practical graphics models, you know. But I think it looks beautiful. And I think the same thing about, you know, 2001. I just think that was a specific era of models, using models and special effects before CGI. And it's very nostalgic to see that. But to see these three actors in this movie is a trip in and of itself. The movie itself is very, very cool. The way that their acting is phenomenal. I love everything about this movie. I love watching this movie with, you know, Bruce Dern, Silent Earth, you know. What was that movie's called? Is that it? Silent Earth? Whatever. He's up there with the trees, you know, the forest and the trees. I've got that too over there. But they both, I love the special effects. Them. I love these cute sci-fi models of ships that they used for these movies. But yes, so that's Saturn III. If you're a fan, please let me know. Tell me what you think about it. Did it remind you You should go find it. It is definitely worthy of being in anyone's collection. To see Kirk Douglas out of his wheelhouse and doing something so cool. Just anything with Farrah Fawcett in it and Harvey Keitel, and it's just really cool to have. So yeah, if you've seen it, let me know what you think about it. If not, you really should. And I will see you in the next day. Love you, miss you. Bye-bye. Always remember, never forget, you're a very, very special person. I hope you enjoyed day 2 of my sci-fi space horror choices. And yeah. Love you, miss you, bye. See you in the next. I've got Farrah hair.